Hello and welcome. This is the introductory video on the course of finite mathematics that we will go through this fall semester. Obviously the audience is meant primarily for my students, but later on everybody who watches this is welcome to benefit from the course if interested. Just so you know, before we go through the details about the course, as with all other courses that are already on my YouTube channel and all the courses that may appear later, if you want to go through the material, it's very important to find the playlist corresponding to the course and go in order with the videos in that playlist. So only the playlist specific to a course is the so-called official material for that course. I'm mentioning this because I'm teaching other classes as well online, and if you go by the videos in the order of appearance on my channel, it can get a little bit confusing because there will be videos that pop up which don't belong to this class but to other classes, although it should be obvious once you go to the video, but in order to avoid any confusion, just go through the playlist and proceed in the order provided there for these videos. And in addition to that, there will be some other videos once in a while just for general audience and not particularly attached to any course, and those may happen randomly from time to time. In terms of the mechanics and the logistics, if you want, for this course, I really like, and if you watch actually some of the videos on my YouTube channel for other courses, you would notice that I really like to go through these online courses in a manner that is as close as possible to the live setting. So my goal is essentially to provide to the students the environment of a classroom, or to be more precise, the environment of a whiteboard in a regular classroom. So the best environment for that is the Lightboard, which I use in one of the courses. That's not possible to use remotely from my home because it's an expensive studio, so that's at the university. Another method which I used in another course in partial differential equations is to use a camera pointed toward the desk so that the white paper occupies the full screen, and then I just write down as I normally write on the board. What I'm going to use right now is kind of similar, except that you won't see my hand, so it's a different device and software that captures my writing in live format, so to speak. So just to see how that goes, let me mention here, and let me write it down as well, that the entire logistic for the course, in terms of the course materials, homeworks, exams, all of these will be given in Blackboard. So all the course materials you'll need are provided in Blackboard, and also via Blackboards, via assignment links, which are explained in the Blackboard documents. So you're going to use Blackboard as well for submission of the homework and for taking the exams and submitting the exams. So when the time comes, I will provide the exams on Blackboard, and then you will submit the exams via Blackboard as well. So you can write the assignments and the exams using regular paper and pencil. You don't have to type anything, so no need to type, except if you want to. I mean, if you feel that that's easier for you, no need to type. So basically you just have to scan or take photos of the assignment. And by the way, I'm not going to write down all the guidelines for how we conduct the class. I just wanted to write down just to get the feeling of how the teaching will go. So basically each section, I will teach it via this type of method in which you kind of see what I write, like, and hear my voices as well at the same time. just like you would attend a regular lecture. Now that means you will have to make sure that your YouTube setting is the highest possible setting. So use HD format in YouTube. I'm mentioning this because if you use the default format, sometimes YouTube will choose, depending on your connection, a lower resolution. Choose the highest possible resolution, even though that might cause some delays and buffering. That's the smallest price to pay in order to see clearly what I write on the board or on the screen if you want. Another important thing, you want to use full screen unless you're really comfortable with a smaller setting. But I really emphasize that full screen is far better, because the way I write, I tend to use fully the space that I have provided. I don't like to turn the page too often, because I often make cross-references with stuff that I wrote before. So think of it as a regular whiteboard, which means it should be as large as possible. What I'm writing here basically is an A4 paper, and so I'll make full use of it. And I'll mention more guidelines and instructions on how to take the lecture or how to attend the lecture in the documents given in Blackboard. So basically, in terms of the technology, obviously you need something to take photos or print or scan. Most of you probably will use the phone, but you can use also a scanner so that you can submit the homework and the exams to Blackboard. Obviously, you'll have to go to my YouTube channel, which is mentioned in Blackboard regularly, because that's where I will place the lectures. Now, the lectures are not done yet. They will be, of course, recorded ahead of time, so I will aim basically to have at least a week worth of lecture in advance, if not more. You should basically go through the lectures in a regular basis, basically 3 lectures a week, because if we were to take this class in a regular fashion, we would meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, slightly longer on Friday, if this were to be a regular classroom. So you would want to basically cover on your own 3 lectures a week. And don't rush, because you may see that the lectures are saved there in advance ahead of time. You don't want to rush unless you're really, really comfortable with it. There's a danger of going through too fast with the material, and then you will have some problems with the exams and the homework. Because the Friday is a longer meeting, we will basically use that day for exams, reviews when the exam time comes. And maybe we're going to stay a little bit longer on homework discussions. There will be a weekly homework which is due next week, but we will take time to go through the homework discussions during online office hours. Now, I have to want to emphasize that lecture taking will be different than the office hours. So basically, the lecture taking is not live, right? So I mean, the lectures, again, will be pre-recorded. The office hours will be live, obviously. That's why they're called office hours. And we will use Zoom. I will send by email via Blackboard the Zoom link for my meeting room. So when the time comes, we will meet live in Zoom. And you can join online. To make it easier, the online office hours times, so the times for the online office hours will be at regular lecture time in the data view schedule. So in the schedule, I hope that's not too confusing. So if you see your schedule, you will have basically lecture time scheduled at some times. Like for example, one of the sections that I'm going to teach this semester meets at 7:30 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think Friday is 7:50 a.m. So because I don't want to overlap with other courses, especially since some of you will take regular courses in the classroom, not only online ones, I will prefer to use the office hours scheduled at lecture times. So the actual lectures that you're going to learn, the learning material, so to speak, these will not be live, will be pre-recorded on YouTube. All you got to do is to make sure you cover them before meeting for the online office hour. So for example, let me give you an example here. Let's say you want to cover, or normally we would cover, let's say in a Wednesday, 1.2 section. What I would like to do is basically take questions for the material that you learn on 1.2. So you want to basically cover the lecture or take the lecture or watch the lecture if you want. Sometime before Wednesday. So basically when you come to the office hours and ask questions, it should be on a material that you already went through by attending the lecture. When I say attend the lecture, I mean basically watching the pre-recorded video. I'll say more on that when we meet live during our first office hour. But again, let me emphasize so that there's no confusion. The scheduled time will be essentially online office hours. The scheduled time on data view that you see will be for the discussions on the material that you already watched. So when we meet live, I will assume you went over a certain lecture and then you have questions and we can discuss those questions. That's very important because if you come to the office hour unprepared, I mean, like if you didn't go through the lecture, obviously you won't know how to do the homework problems and you will have all sorts of questions, and it will be obvious if you, to me at least, if you don't watch the lecture in advance. So in this way, there is a huge flexibility in terms of how you take the lecture and how you learn the material, because you can do one a day. If you feel like you like to do a lot of math in a weekend, for example, you could go through 3 lectures, basically a week worth of material. Again, I would advise you not to go too fast because you don't have time to learn well the topics. Essentially, after each lecture, you will have to go through the homework as well. And then only if you're comfortable with the homework, then you can move on to the next section. So be prepared to basically go a little bit slower on these lecture videos. Another thing I want to mention is that the name of the lectures will be basically the same as the sections in the schedule. So we will have lecture or lesson, kind of messy here, lecture 1.1, 1.2, so on and so forth, 2.1, 2.2. So I will name these videos using the same number as in the homework schedule so that it's clear enough when you go through the material what homework you have to do immediately. And every week I will mention exactly which homework we'll collect. The homework is collected every week, but exactly what I collect every week may change slightly because some sections are easier than others or harder than others, however you want to say it, which means that there might be weeks in which I will prefer to take only 2 sections as a homework, especially if they require a lot of work or time to go through it. I'm sure lots of questions will be answered live, so I strongly encourage you to join the first office hour, which we won't discuss any new material. That's going to be just the first introductory Zoom meeting so that any possible logistic questions can be answered before we move on. By that time, I hope to upload at least a couple of lectures, at least to get a feeling of how they look like. You don't have to take them in advance, but at least just watch one of them just to see how things go. One last remark for this introductory video, which is extremely important so that you have so that it's a successful experience for you going through the class. When you are ready to take the online lecture, really act as if you are in a regular classroom, which means you need to basically have enough commitment to turn your phone off, which you will normally do in a regular classroom. Take your notebook. You still have to take notes, just like in a regular classroom. Open the video and put yourself in the mind set that you will spend 40-50 minutes, like in a regular classroom, really focused on the material on the board. So you just have to turn off all other distractions, Facebook, whatever. This is really on you because there's no way for me to actually enforce this. But I hope the reason why I'm asking you to do this is obvious. And if you decide not to follow my advice, well, it's a free country, so we'll see how we go from there. So I'm really big on making this experience as close as possible to the regular classroom, because I strongly believe that math is best learned essentially on paper with a pencil. So the more you actually write the stuff, the better you learn. It's kind of like a way to focus your mind on the topic rather than just watch it. So make sure you don't watch the lectures like you watch a movie. If you don't write down every single example that I actually solve on the lecture, on the screen, you're not basically doing well enough in terms of attending the lecture. You really should, I should call it attending essentially, although it's not live. That being said, there are disadvantages to this setting, of course, because it's not live, but there are also advantages, which means you can pause, for instance, and rewind the video if you don't understand something, which you cannot do in a live classroom, right? So if you think you need a little bit of extra time, pause the video, and I actually expect you to pause it, because since I record this stuff, I don't need to be careful with making pauses so that people can catch up. The catching up is on you by hitting the pause button. Hit the pause button as often as you want. Sometimes I will advise you to do that during the video. Rewind it if necessary to actually check again a step. Proceed only if you understand all the computation. And when you're done, immediately or as soon as possible, which means next day at the latest, attempt the homework specific to the lecture, because the homework is really similar to the lecture and the exams will be also similar to the lecture and the homework. With that being said, that's all for this introductory stuff, and I hope you'll enjoy the class, and I'll see you next time with our first section, our first lecture. See you later.